Welcome back to our next segment of our lesson. Our next segment of the lesson is on decimals and operations. Okay, decimal and operations. What do we mean by operations? Operations are the symbols that we use, which is addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Now, I am going to illustrate to you what decimal is, because decimal consists of a whole number and a fractional part which is separated by a decimal point. I am going to illustrate that using the place value table. Okay. So, we have the whole numbers on our left, whole numbers, and then we have the fractions on our left. Now, we can use a place value table to illustrate what a decimal is. I'll start with 1,000 on the left. You can go as far as a million. You can have let's say 10,000, hundreds of thousands to your left, and also to your right, the tens. You can have the hundreds, thousands, and tens of thousands. Okay, we have 1,000, we have the hundreds, we have the tens, we have the ones or the units, and then we have a decimal point here which separates the tens from the whole numbers, followed by the hundreds, 1,000s, and so on. Now, when we are adding fractions, we have to be mindful of the values that we are adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing. Now, when we write the numbers must be written under each other depending on what value they represent on the place value table. Let's start with the first example. 198.67 plus 4,381.731. Now, we are going to add these numbers. When we add these numbers, the decimal point must be underneath each other. And the numbers that represent the same values on the place value table must be placed underneath each other so that our addition is accurate. Let me start with 198.67 plus 4,303 comes under 1 because they represent the hundreds. 8 comes under 9 because they represent the tens. And 1 comes under 8 because they represent the units. 7 comes under 6. They represent the tens. 3 comes under 7 because they represent the hundreds. And then I have 1 here. Now, when we add decimals, we always start from the right. Now, if we look at 1, there is no number that represents the hundreds in 198.67. So I'll put a 0 there to make it complete so that my addition is accurate. 1 plus 0 is 1. 3 plus 7 is 10, put down 0, carry 1. 7 plus 6 is 13, plus 1 is 14, put down 4, carry 1, and the decimal point must be underneath the 2 decimal points there. 8 plus 1, 9 plus 1 is 10, put down 0, carry 1. 9 plus 8 is 17, plus 1 is 18, put down 8, carry 1. 3 plus 1 is 4, plus 1, 5. Put down 5 and bring down 4. Now, the answer to our addition is 4,580.401. Now, we are going to look at multiplication of decimals. We cannot do addition because the same rule applies to addition. Now we are going to go straight to multiplication. Let's start with an example. Let's say 17.5 times 3.6. Now, before I do any multiplication or any operations at all, I will have to identify the number of decimal places in each number that is involved in the multiplication of the decimals. 17.5 has 1 decimal place. 3.6 has also 1 decimal place, so we have a total of 2 decimal places. Now, when I multiply, I am going to ignore the decimal points and I am going to multiply them as ordinary whole numbers. So, I'll have 175 times 36. 6 times 5 is 30, put down 0, carry 3. 6 times 7 is 42, plus 3 is 45, put down 5, carry 4. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 4 is 10. Now, when I am multiplying by 3, I am actually multiplying by 30. So, I put the 0 here first before I multiply by 3. I have 3 times 5 is 15, put down 5, carry 1. 3 times 7 is 21, plus 1 is 22, put down 2, carry 2. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5. Then I add 0 plus 0, 0. 5 plus 5 is 10, put down 0, carry 1. 2 plus 1 is 3, and 5 plus 1 is 6. That's not the end of the answer. I am going to go back to the original question. How many decimal places are there in the original question? There are 2 decimal places, so I am going to move 2 places to the left. 1, 2. So, my answer is 63.00. Or I can write it as 63.00 as my answer to my multiplication of decimals. Okay, that is the end of this example, and my next example is on multiplying decimals by tens. Now, when we are multiplying decimals by tens, we look at the number of zeros and we move to the right depending on how many zeros they are. Okay, let me start with the first example. Okay, for the first example, I have 1.75 times 10. Okay. We have 1 0 because it's 10. So, I am going to move 1 place to the right. So, now I have 1.75. When I move 1 place to the right, my answer now becomes 17.5. Okay, 17.5. Next, I am going to multiply by 100. Now, when I multiply by 100, I have 2 zeros, so I am going to move 2 places to the right. Okay, I have 1.75 times 100. Okay, so I have 1.75. I move 2 places to the right from where the decimal point is, 1, 2. And that gives me 175. So, if we look at it, we have 1.75 times 100 is equal to 175. Let's try one more. This time, I am going to multiply 1.75 by 1,000. Okay, since there are 3 zeros, I am going to move 3 places to the right. I have 1.75. I have moved 3 places to the right. Now, notice that there is a curve here without anything. I am going to put a 0 here so that there is a figure there. So, my answer becomes 1,750. So, from this lesson here, we have seen that when you multiply by a tens or power of 10, you simply move the number of places to the right depending on how many zeros there are. Okay, so in today's lesson, we have looked at what a decimal number is. We have looked at addition, subtraction, and multiplication of decimals. In our next lesson, we are going to look at division of decimals. And that brings us to the end of our lesson. Thank you.